Hi, I'm Matt Reese, and this is episode 8 of 3 Minute Tech. These are the videos where we cover off your strategic financial planning questions without any of that technical jargon. Now, in our last episode, we discussed the work test and how you need to meet the work test to contribute post the age of 67. However, there's something called the Downsizer provision that we'll be covering today. The Downsizer provision is a fantastic piece of legislation. It allows you to contribute more money into super if you sell your principal residence post 67. Now, this doesn't matter if you upsize, equal size or downsize, you can get some more money into super. And it equally doesn't matter if you have 200,000 within super, 2 million or 20 million within super. There's something in it for you, and I mean that. So even if you don't sell your principal residence, if it's your parents, your grandparents or some friends, they must be seeking advice, and we'll be talking about that today. So as I said, the Downsizer provision is a fantastic piece of legislation. It enables you to get up to $300,000 into super if you sell your home post the age of 67. Now that's $300,000 for you and $300,000 for a spouse. Now, as you recall, in episode 2, there's two types of components. This contribution goes into the tax-free component. So it goes in entirely tax-free, and when it goes to the next generation or a spouse on your death, it goes to them entirely tax-free. So nothing to worry about there. It was introduced simply to encourage older Australians to downsize their property and free up more capital for their retirement. But in reality, it holds a whole lot more strategic planning than just that. So what are the eligibility requirements? Well, 1, you have to be over the age of 67. 2, it has to have been a principal residence. 3, you have to have owned that principal residence for greater than 10 years. And lastly, number 4, well, you can't contribute more than the proceeds you receive from the home sale. So what are the strategic opportunities here? Well, if you downsize, you free up additional capital that you can move into super. But what about if you equal size or even upsize? Well, there is some strategic planning we can still do here. 1, you could move additional capital that you have external to super into super. But you might say, well, Matt, I don't have any more capital to put into super. Can I still do something? The answer is yes. You can do what's called a recontribution strategy. You might take funds out of super, entirely tax-free, and move them back into super using the Downsizer provision. Why would you do that? Well, you might recall in episode 2 and 3 of 3 Minute Tech, we spoke about what happens to the next generation. So this recontribution strategy saves tax if your adult children inherit your super down the track. So as I said before, there's something in it for everyone. So in today's case study, we have Ted and Victoria. They have a principal residence that they've owned for 20 years. Unfortunately, the gardening's a bit too hard for them to maintain and they're electing to downsize. Now they sell their principal residence for $2 million and downsize into something a bit more manageable for $1 million. They have a total of $1 million in excess capital. Now after watching this episode of 3 Minute Tech, they elect to use the Downsizer provision. They put $300,000 each into super. Now this goes in after tax, and equally it goes into that tax-free component. So there's no worries about if they pass away, is there going to be any tax to pay? The answer is no. So $600,000 goes into super, $400,000 is retained in their personal name for some lifestyle spending, and equally to spoil the grandchildren. So what have we learnt today? Well, the Downsizer provision truly has something in it for everyone. If you or someone you know are selling their principal residence post the age of 67, they need to be seeking advice. This is regardless of whether they downsize, equal size or upsize. And as I said before, the devil's in the detail. Must be selling a principal residence post 67 and they must have owned that residence for more than 10 years.